Pyjama.
Oh, my old man's a dustman, he wears a dustman's hat. He wears blimey trousers and a donkey jacket when it's cold, and sturdy steel or rigid plastic toe-cap boots for safety. And those thick gloves, like gardening gloves but aren't gardening gloves, that are made of that stuff that's like leather but isn't leather, for when he has to shift stuff. Not that he really ever has to shift stuff anymore now that it's all wheelie bins, but he has to pull the bins round by the handles and work the mechanism on the lorry. And they probably keep his hands warmer than they would otherwise be, even though they're more designed for practicality and protection rather than comfort. Once, he found a hand behind one of the bins. All the fingerprints had been burnt off. And he lives in a council flat. Oi!
A few weeks ago I had the following conversation with my mum during one of those instances when she'd managed to inveigle her way into my hovel.
I'll give your windows a wash. Where's your cleaner?
Eh?
Where's your window spray?
How do you mean?
What do you wash your windows with?
Rain?
Now, obviously that was a cheap gag on my part, playing on my mum's unhealthy obsession with household cleanliness. I mean, who washes their windows? Nobody male, I'm sure. I've lived in the same place for 2.5 years now without doing so, and yet I can still see outside. Just. But the mention of rain got me thinking about weather. Now, I love the British weather. All of it. I love the variety. There's something wonderful about living in a country where you get to experience almost every kind of weather imaginable, whilst being reasonably confident none of it will kill you. Billy Connolly once said, "There's no such thing as bad weather, there's just the wrong clothes." And that's a brilliant attitude to have. I mean, who doesn't adore spring showers, atmospheric mists, thunder, lightning, biting wind and stinging hail? Who doesn't love weather with character? Well, in my experience, most people. Over the years, I've come to accept that I'm in the minority. I remember at school most of my friends would holiday abroad and come back saying things like,
Mallorca's great. It was 30 degrees all week and sunny the whole time, not like here.
To which my response was generally,
Well, fuck off back to Mallorca then.
This was partly due to my bizarre defensiveness when it comes to the country of my birth, and partly because I'd usually spent the previous 2 weeks stuck in a tent in the Lake District, but that's another story. Fortunately, I've retained my innocent youthful intolerance and still thrill to the annoyance of being surrounded by people who disagree with me, or idiots, as I like to think of them. These depressingly unimaginative types who at some point in their formative years have been conditioned into a warm good, cold bad mentality and don't have the wit to break out of it. Folk that holiday on fetid, baking little islands and seem to think suntans look attractive. Some even seem to have a childishly simplistic view that sun equals warmth. This is why, usually around February, on the first really bright day of the year, there are people wearing t-shirts and shorts sitting in beer gardens whilst I walk past in scarf and overcoat due to the fact that it's still only 2 degrees out. Not that I want to sound snobbish at all, but hey, you don't always get what you want. Almost as annoying to me are the people who can only be described as slow learners, as typified by the following overheard conversation by 2 old dears in a pub.
Hasn't the weather been shocking?
Oh, yes.
And Monday was so nice, roasting hot, but Tuesday when I did my washing it rained all day.
Typical, and it's still lousy.
Aye, I was going to go into town tomorrow, but I won't bother. Not if it's going to be like this.
Now, I loved overhearing this for 2 reasons. Firstly, it was completely earnest. There was no sense of irony to it at all. The first woman seemed genuinely outraged and offended by the action of something so wholly arbitrary. And secondly, even though her working hypothesis of weather on day should equal weather on day plus 1 had proved patently iffy, she was still prepared to alter a weekend recreation based on the same dodgy premise. You've got to admire that persistence. Even the least observant person must surely have noticed at an early age that weather in this country is, well, changeable. Yet these women were well into their 60s and seemingly still perplexed by the fact of it. Indeed, they're certainly not alone in this ingrained curmudgeonly attitude, though, to be fair, like most people, they may just occasionally like the opportunity to have a good moan. My personal weather moan concerns forecasting. Not so much that it's useless, more that they still try and do it. I'm sure everyone pretty much agrees that weather prediction is woeful. This has been for many years almost a national joke, yet it persists. If you want evidence of its supreme pointlessness, look no further than that bastion of mediocrity, the weather page of the BBC's website. Only one quick Click away from the homepage, it'll give you a nice 5-day forecast for the town or city of your choice, each day's weather represented by a nice little picture. If you refresh the page every hour or so, and I have, you'll find that the picture representing tomorrow's weather keeps changing. Now, if you can't confidently or accurately predict what the weather's going to do in less than 24 hours' time, what is the actual point? Why bother trying at all? A few months ago, I had to keep an eye on a friend's house while he was away. This house had a dodgy roof, and I agreed to monitor leaks and empty buckets when required. Now, I only needed the relatively simple prediction of rain or not rain on a day-to-day basis. Yet over a 2-week period, the forecast I used, a well-respected mobile app, was correct in its prediction less than 50% of the time. That is no more accurate than the old technique of going to a field and basing your forecast on whether the cows are standing up or sitting down. Now, meteorologists have the height of 21st century technology available to them. They have greater monitoring of global weather patterns than at any time in human history. They have supercomputers running programs drawing on everything from atmospheric physics to chaos theory. Yet when it boils down to the simple question of whether or not it's going to piss it down tomorrow, they're still no more reliable than cattle. We should just give up. Sack the lot of them and do something useful with the money. Like buying everyone a good umbrella. Incidentally, it turns out that if you buy an umbrella from Poundland, you get what you deserve, which is wet. I have an unhealthy obsession with Poundland, a sort of morbid curiosity which keeps drawing me back there. In the past month alone, aside from an ineffective brolly, I've bought recordable DVDs which wouldn't record, and a phone charger which stubbornly refused to charge any phone. My last purchase was some Factor 16 sunblock, which Mr. Wilson and I optimistically used on the sunniest weekend of the year so far, so if neither of us feature in the next podcast, you'll have a good idea as to why. Where was I? Oh yeah. Sadly, I can't wholly despair of the art of weather forecasting, as if nothing else, it's provided us with this one gem.
Earlier on today, apparently, a woman rang the BBC and said she heard that there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't. But having said that, actually, the weather will become very windy, but most of the strong winds, incidentally, will be down over Spain.
That was, as most of you will know, the BBC weatherman Michael Fish in 1987, exuding a measured, reassuring calmness shortly before a hurricane hit the home counties like a Force 12 sledgehammer, causing £2 billion worth of damage. It is one of the most sublime pieces of television ever produced. If you can overlook the unfortunate fact that said hurricane killed 22 people, and based on the number of times the clip's repeated, it would seem most people can overlook this, what you have is the classic gag. Guy predicts a thing, and then the exact opposite happens. Factor in the fact that the guy in question is both a figure of authority and an expert in a very specific field of study, yet is still 100% wrong, and you have a piece of comedy gold. But the fun doesn't end there, because ever since 1987, Fish has been trying to wriggle out of responsibility for the faux pas, initially by simply claiming it didn't happen. Now, if there was an all-time top 10 list of things it's very unwise to deny, number 1 would be Holocaust, and slipping straight in at number 2 would be something that you were filmed doing, which was simultaneously broadcast to an entire nation. That being the case, Michael has changed his tune several times over the years. I can remember at least one occasion where he somehow tried to pin the blame on fellow presenter Bill Giles. A quick YouTube search finds a clip of him denying that a woman ever phoned the BBC in the first place, while several reliable internet sources, plus Wikipedia, have him claiming the misunderstanding came about because he was responding to a query about a possible hurricane in Florida. Here, have another listen.
Earlier on today, apparently, a woman rang the BBC and said she heard that there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't.
Florida, Michael. Fuck off. But the weather-related thing that irritates me most happens in late summer. Let me set the context. Every year, I help organise a weekend festival. It's an outdoor event. A team of people put months of effort into making it happen, and everyone who knows me is aware of this, yet in the week before the event, I can guarantee 2 or 3 of them will come up to me and say,
"Forecast lousy for the weekend."
And I reply,
Why the bollocking hell have you just told me that, you absolute blithering twat? The only possible result of imparting that knowledge is to make me feel less positive about a thing I've spent 12 months looking forward to. Please go away and fuck yourself, you massive, massive cunt.
I don't really say that, of course. It's just what goes through my head. What I actually say is,
You know, I don't care what the forecast says. I'll still enjoy myself. But if I do get curious about the weather, you know what I'll do? I'll peer out through the window grime on Saturday morning and see what it's doing.
and that's what I do. And 9 times out of 10, it's lovely. So occasionally, it's nice that some weather forecasts are crap.
Hello, Martin here, and welcome to the History Bit. That's the bit of the podcast where we talk about things that have happened in the past. Probably. Or most likely. This week we're going to be talking about a famous phrase, and that phrase is,
"He should be trundled out on a biddy."
Thanks, Big Mike. Now, we're all familiar with this phrase, mainly because of its use by Alfie Bass in the popular BBC sitcom, You Strangled My Lass. But where does it come from? Where does it go? Where does it come from, Cotton-Eyed Joe? Where does it come from? Well, it doesn't come from where you might expect. It actually hails from the wilds of Cleckheaton, where during the latter part of the 19th century, the popular punishment of biddy trundling was used against men who failed to service their wives in a sexual way. Although it's a misnomer to call it a punishment, as it wasn't one punishment, but two. These were called the standing and the trundling. Now, the first part of the punishment, or the standing, is regarded by most scholars and people at the time as the worst part of the ordeal visited upon the impotent. There is only one description of its horrors, and that exists in the form of a diary entry made by the incumbent vicar of Cleckheaton, the Reverend Smallcox. It was a cold morning in mid-December when I witnessed the first part of this terrible punishment. The accused in this case was a man named Johnson, who had failed to pleasure his wife for 3 nights in a row. Johnson was first denied all contact with alcohol for 1 day before being sent to bed with a mug of cocoa. The next morning he was awoken at 11 o'clock and taken to the town inn, where he was made to stand at the end of the bar, drinking nothing but tea. I'm afraid I could only watch for several seconds before weeping and running for the sanctuary of the church. I'm sure you'll agree that was a fate worse than death. Anyway, where was I? We have little written evidence pertaining to the second part of the punishment, or the trundling. However, there is a great deal of physical evidence in the district, mainly hanging from the walls of pubs and in the vaults of the museums. From this we can surmise that the accused was taken out at 4 p.m. to the top of Biddyslite Lane, where he was strapped to a cruciform trolley. The top part of the trolley, where the head rested, was carved into the face of a wizened old hag with a pointed nose, or a biddy, as it was known. The nose would press into the skull of the wretched creature strapped hard to the device. After a short prayer, offered up by the local vicar, the trolley was pushed down the hill, sending the poor fellow racing towards a local turkey farm, which was located at the bottom in a small gully. This gully was known as Gobbler's Gulch. Sadly, there's no more evidence available, but we can surmise that the accused would be terribly pecked at the end of his journey. Well, I hope you learned something there. The next time you go out and hear somebody say, "He should be trundled out on a biddy," laugh in their face and push them down a hill.
Dear Diary, my dad rang today. He was going on about mashed potato. He'd been clearing the freezer out and had found a box labelled mashed potato, and he wanted to know what he should do with it. Now, my dad don't like mashed potato, so it can't have been him that froze it, which means it must have been my mother, and she's been dead 6 years, so it's probably past its best. So I told him to sling it. "But that's a terrible waste, Lisa love," was his reply. "But you don't like mashed potato, Dad." "Well, it's wasteful." "Well, what would you do with it?" "Well, you know, I don't know. What do you do with mashed potato?" "Well, when it's 6-year-old, Dad, you throw it in the bin." Well, where would it have come from?" "Me mam." "What would she have frozen mashed potato for?" "I have no fucking idea." "So what should I do with it? Put it in the bin?" "Are you sure there's no I can do?" "No, Dad, you don't like it. It'd cost 2.50 to make. Put it in the bin." "Oh, all right then, if you say so."
In episode Tumty Tum of The Gentleman's Review, it being the Christmas special, we related our favourite fictional news stories of the past year. Here is mine, in the self-indulgent detail in which it was originally written, but which, for reasons of listener contentment, I heavily contracted. I'm sure we all remember where we were those few short weeks ago in mid-December when we heard about the Queen's lunar jaunt. I know I don't, but then I am exceptional in many ways. Having read the story through the usual channels, I tapped my extensive network of contacts in the hard news media and eventually got the inside line from a nameless contact in Fleet Street. Who'd have thought? The Queen going on a mini-break to the moon? I suppose we should have seen the signs. She was getting stressed. Christmas was coming up. She's getting tired of tossing her speech off at the last minute, but she always does, and it didn't look like this year was going to be any exception. So she's mooching around the palace one day, listening to a bit of Destiny's Child. An independent woman comes on. She's singing along.
Crown I'm wearing, I inherited house I live in, on the civil list, pom 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 pom, tumty tum tum bop 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 bop. All the honeys on the money, doobie doobie, that's me.
And something snaps. Decides she needs a bit of one time. So she makes a few calls and come Thursday lunchtime, whoosh, off to the moon. 'Cause she's a canny one, your Queen. Gets there Thursday evening, late tea, early night, then you've got all day Friday to yourself, so you can get round all the popular bits when it's quiet. Not like the suckers who travel on Friday and end up spending all of Saturday fighting through the crowds. 'Cause this time of year, it's not just tourists, all the locals are out doing Christmas shopping, and you end up wasting half your long weekend. Saturday and Sunday chillaxing, bit of a pamper and a spray tan at the hotel spa, then a nice moon breakfast on Monday morning and back home in time for countdown. I think she reckoned she'd got away with it without anyone noticing, but as NASA or North Korea will tell you, the only thing harder than flying rockets around is flying rockets around without anyone noticing. She's barely got through customs and decontamination before the spaceport's crawling with press. Of course, she's got no time for this. She's just had a nice mini break. She doesn't want her long weekend buzz killed by a load of limo chasers. So she pulls out the ace up her sleeve. It's a bit naughty really, as she's only supposed to use it in cases of immediate personal danger, but she thinks, sod it, I'm the Queen, who's going to tell me not to? She's a dab hand with the hypno wave, so within 20 seconds, all the journos are spark out on the floor with a 10-minute hole in their memories, and she's safely in her car on the way back to Windsor. It's pretty clever actually, and I reckon I've seen her do it enough times I could pull it off myself. Here, I'll have a go.
Dear Diary, me dad's found some more old food. Lisa, love, what do you do with cranberry sauce? Where have you got cranberry sauce from, Dad? I found it in cupboard. In cupboard? Yeah, I found it in cupboard. It's a packet. It's like a sachet. And does it say Tastes of America on it? Aye, yeah, it's sort of a gold packet and it says Tastes of America cranberry sauce on it. So I had to tell him that I won it on a tombola in 1983 and that he should probably throw it away. Are you sure there's no we can do with it? No, Dad, no. Chemical warfare maybe, but that's about it. Oh, it does seem a shame.
May quack and cherry out of your mouth and grow. Oh, God, grow. It's over the cockle. Brittany's all in the row. Brittany's all in the row.
Those two cherubs were me and my sister, and it was recorded by my grandfather in the summer of 1977. The hourly keen of you will have noticed that my accent was definitely that of a Yorkshire child. In fact, it was the accent of Halifax in West Yorkshire, which was as distinct to that town as calling shit bab and climbing Wainhouse Tower on a wet bank holiday Monday. So where did it go? And how did I nearly get it back? It's 1989 and I'm working as a newspaper mender for the Halifax Courier. This was a prestigious job in the town, as many people only bought one newspaper a year, and they like to keep it in good condition. Sometimes when I was repairing an issue, I slip in some fresh news. However, this was frowned upon by my boss, and a couple of times I was docked pay for slipping my auntie an extra murder and a sad dolphin interview. All in all, it was a good job and I was happy. I get up every morning, pack my mending irons, and catch the hover tram to work. Well, we called it a hover tram, but it was in fact a bouncy castle on the back of a lorry. I did this every day for 3 years, until one day tragedy struck. It was the summer of 1992, and rave culture had gone mainstream. It was impossible to walk through the streets of Halifax without encountering some poor soul in lycra shorts dancing around in the middle of the road with a whistle in their mouth. It became such a problem that the council began erecting chill-out tents on the roundabouts to get the loved up out of the way of ambulances, ice cream vans, and sometimes corpse shuttles. Anyway, it was a summer morning that year when the editor of the Courier was returning home from an all-nighter in a warehouse on the edge of town. He must have become distracted for a moment because he slipped on a glow stick and fell under a passing hover tram. They say his head flew off and bounced around on the tram for over an hour. But I think that was just wishful thinking. I remember when I heard the news. I was back at the office relagging an advert for cheese. And shortly afterwards I was called to the Lord Director's office for a chat.
Ah, Wolfenden, stand up.
Yes, sir, you wanted to see me?
Yes, you may have heard about the sad death of Evan Halshaw this morning.
Yes, sir, very sad.
They say his head bounced around on the tram for nearly an hour.
So I hear, sir, but I think that's just wishful thinking.
Maybe so, Wolfenden, but that leaves me with a gaping hole and I want you to fill it.
Pardon, sir?
The editor job, lad. I want you to be the next editor of the Halifax Courier.
I'd be delighted, sir. Thank you.
Report to Mr. Franglehoop. He'll give you your editing irons and the key to the executive aviary.
This is the best day of my life, I thought, and seemed to float out of the office on a cushion of air. Though that's because I'd stood on the director's 2 pet tortoises, who were carrying me out on their backs. Before long, I turned the Courier into the most successful local newspaper in the country. So successful, in fact, that I closed down the mending workshops, where I'd spent so much of my youth. You see, people were buying the paper daily now, so had no further need of its services. Then, one day in midsummer, my life changed forever. I was tickling a chuff in the executive aviary when my assistant, a small man called Goffrey, burst in saying he'd received a call from Radio Air. They want me to be the presenter of their morning news and bongo show. I boarded a hover tram immediately to the station and then to Leeds, where I soon arrived at the giant skyscraper building belonging to the Radio Air Corporation. I was met at reception by a jolly fat man and taken to the station manager's office.
Ah, you must be Martin Wolfenden. Lean against the wall, lad. Now I hear you've turned the fortunes round of the Halifax Courier, and I want you to do the same thing to our morning news and bongo show.
No problem at all, sir. I'd be delighted.
Excellent, Wolfenden. That's exactly what we want to hear at Radio Air, along with interesting music, chat, and bongos. Get over to Mr. Frugalhamp, and he'll give you some presenting irons. Oh, and Wolfenden.
Yes, sir?
Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to get rid of that accent. We have a strict corporate style here at Radio Air, and you'll need to fit in.
But, sir, what accent should I have?
It's a cross between Canvey Island and somebody undergoing nasal surgery. What, like this? Perfect. Now bugger off. I need to kiss a salamander in the executive terrarium.
Within 6 months, my news and bongo show was pulling in an 80% audience share, and I was carried through the streets in an open-topped Wendy house to wave at some people in a beer garden. I was now the most successful radio presenter outside of the rest of the country. However, my heart ached. You see, I paid a terrible price for my fame. My Yorkshire accent was all but gone. Gone forever. Or was it? 20 years later, I was sitting outside my millionaire bungalow, mulling over times past, while staring absent-mindedly into my aviary, when the whole world shook and everything went black. Some days later, I woke up in hospital with a tube down my throat and a pipe in each ear. My mother was sitting by my bed, and she explained that there had been an explosion at the local gas mine, and my house had been destroyed. All they could save was a novelty Dracula cape and a horse brass in the shape of a dog's face. I laid there for some minutes taking in the news before sitting up in bed and shouting, "Bloody bastard castle bugger!" You see, the knock on my head had restored my Yorkshire accent, and I would never let it go again.
It's the old-fashioned customer service that I miss these days. I had to return something to the supermarket last week. "Excuse me," I said to the young man behind the desk. "Yes, madam. How can I be of assistance to you on this fine day?" he smiled in reply. I continued, "It's about this cake I bought yesterday for my daughter's birthday party." He took the box from me and gave it a once-over. "Ah, yes, our super bargain sparkle princess celebration cake. Very popular with the little ladies." "What seems to be the problem, madam? Were there bits of glass in it?" This concerned me, but I pressed on. Not that I noticed. It's the warnings after the ingredients." He scanned the list. "Ah, contains gluten?" he inquired. "No," I said. "May contain nuts?" he ventured. "Keep going," I said. "Possibly contains poison?" he rejoined. "Yes," I exclaimed pointedly. This seemed to clarify matters for him. "Oh, allergic is she?" "It's poison. Of course she's bloody allergic." I'm not keen on swearing. It's very unladylike, but cunts like that just tip me over the edge. "Why is it there, anyway?" "Well, it's just like the nuts, madam," he explained. "There's no poison in the ingredients, but it is made on a production line which handles poison." I began to quiz him on the wisdom of this arrangement, but he pressed on regardless. "Anyway, madam, if you followed the serving suggestion, as illustrated on the box, and served the cake with custard, it would be perfectly safe." I was suspicious. "Do you mean to tell me that the mere application of custard would protect my daughter and her school chums from a potentially horrific death or debilitating illness from your budget confection?" He looked at me witheringly. "No, madam, custard. Super Shop's custard-style dessert sauce." "It's a funny story, actually. Someone found it leaking out the back of the machine that makes the cakes and discovered that the chemical that makes it look yellow also neutralises any residual poison." "So just to be clear," I checked, "you're saying it counteracts poison because it's yellow?" "No, madam. It isn't yellow. It only looks yellow." This was all getting a bit too philosophical for me, and sensing his line of argument wasn't working, he changed tack. "Really, madam, a discerning customer like yourself who cares about the provenance of their food would be better off going for our more luxury range of foodstuffs." "Oh yes," I said, "the treat yourself you beautiful bitch range. Well, those ones look nice, but they're a bit spendy, as I believe my young nephew would say." "Well, we're all watching the pennies these days, madam," he chipped in tritely. "Tell you what, how about I make it up to you by doing you 2 of these cakes for the price of 1? "2 cakes for the price of 1? I said. "It's a real bargain, madam," he said. "2 possibly poisoned cakes?" I said. "But for the price of 1, madam," he said keenly. Well, what could I say to that? "Oh, go on then, thank you, young man. After all, I'm not made of money, and I did get a couple of litres of custard, so I'm sure it'll be fine." "Bye-bye, madam. Watch out for the bits of glass."
Dear Diary, I'm getting scared for me dad. Lisa, love, do you remember them tins of peaches in our bedroom? Not really, Dad, no. You do, them big ones, them big catering tins of peaches that your mum bought. No, bearing in mind my mum's been dead at least 6 years. Even if I did remember, Dad, what's up with them? Well, one of them's gone a bit round. What do you mean, Dad? Well, it's sort of Round? Do you mean it's blown? Aye, yeah, all the lid's blown up on it. Right, you want to throw that away, Dad? It's fermenting. Throw it away? Yes. Well, I don't know. How are we going to take it outside, knit it with a chisel? I think the bin a bit best place for it, Dad. Well, that sounds a bit dangerous. More than hitting it with a chisel? Well, I suppose. If you say so.
Hi, Andy.
Hello.
I'm just having breakfast, mate. Do you want to join me?
Oh, yeah, go on then. I'm a bit hungry.
Yeah, just getting away from the wife and kids.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. It's nice to get a break from mine.
Driving me fucking mad, I tell you.
Yeah.
This morning they want me to take them to harpsichord riding lessons. Yeah.
Just a constant burden.
Well, that's it. And then the wife just wants me to do work around the house as soon as I get home. It's just a pain in the arse. I mean, I've told her, I may be a builder by trade, but, I don't want to be going home and doing the same work as I do during the week, I mean,
Well, no, exactly. I mean, it's all very well and good, her expecting you to build her a new house every week.
Yeah.
But you've got other things to do. You've got football to watch, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it.
I know you're a big fan of the football.
And we're running out of room for these new houses, I tell you. I mean,
yeah.
6 or 7 last month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're building them all on the plot of one small council terrace, so you're going to run out of room eventually, aren't you?
Yeah, they just keep going up now.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. And helicopters keep crashing into the kids' bedrooms, it's a bit bad.
Yeah, it's only a shame they're classifying them as lots of separate buildings, otherwise it'd easily be the tallest in the UK by now.
Yeah, you know what they're like, bloody councils.
No, well, it's all technicalities, isn't it?
Absolutely rubbish.
Because you've stacked them higgledy-piggledy on top of one another, they count as lots of separate ones.
Yeah, I call it Jenga Town.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one of the kids for a few weeks now. I think it got lost.
Have you not?
No.
Well, yeah.
No,
Well, you want to start demolishing the old ones one at a time and listen for the squelch.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I'll tell you where it was.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've got a special squelch detector. Got it from Screwfix Direct.
Oh, they're good for that kind of thing, aren't they? Yeah.
I've got an account, of course, now. I've got my own business and van.
Yes.
Yeah. So
well, you've got to have a van, haven't you?
That's it. Yeah, I ride
So,
around.
keeping all the in the back.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I used to have the bang bus, but that broke down eventually.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it? Well, it caught something, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. I've never seen a wheel arch rot off like that.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. It smelt of yeast.
Yeah. Well, that time when you took it to the mechanic and he had to stick that spiky thing right down the exhaust pipe to see what it was.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And then you could see through the camera what it was, and it was like a little squidgy face thing.
Oh, it was horrible, wasn't it?
Bad business was that, yeah.
Still, bound to happen eventually.
Anyway, how are you all lot?
Oh, not bad. Well, because, I've got, did my 3 kids, one of each.
Yeah.
I've got the boy, the girl, and the fitting.
Oh, I love a fitting,
Yeah, my little Anthony, who's the boy, and Antonia, the girl, and an aunt.
That's it. That's great. And
the fitting.
Yeah, I mean, they're lovely when they're a fitting, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but they run me ragged,
Well, you know what I found with the fitting? Elasticated breeches.
Ah, that would help.
That's it.
The thing is, though, if he can't get up there, then he'll only burrow under the floorboards again.
Oh well,
But I mean, they've all got their interests, haven't they? There's the football, the horses, and the burrowing.
Yeah,
keeps all 3 of them busy.
That's it, and of course it costs you about £200 a month for each one of those things. I mean, it's just, they say there's a recession on, but
no, not when it comes to keeping kids entertained.
No, I was doing a bit of a plastering job the other day. I was doing it on a mausoleum.
All right. How was it?
It was all right, I mean, it was. He wanted some nice crenellations doing in plaster. But,
that's nice.
Well, I told him though that it's going to be quite brittle. A bit of a breeze, off it goes.
Yeah. Well, that's the risk.
Came back this morning and there's just a puddle of plaster on the floor. That's a pain in the ass.
Well, you can't say you didn't warn him.
No.
Yeah. Did you get cash up front?
Oh, of course I did. Yeah.
I mean, well, there you go. Job's a good one.
I mean, I'm not that mad. You don't have to be mad to be a builder, but it helps.
Yeah, of course. You've got that on the sticker on your van.
I have, yeah.
Well, I say sticker. Those 20-foot high light up letters you've got on the roof,
and the PA system, of course, which blasts it out wherever I go. I mean, it's
brilliant.
Of course, going to take the wife for a mini break. On the weekend.
Oh, where are you going? Yeah.
Well, we're going to go to Carshalton Beaches.
Oh, nice. Nice that is there.
Yeah, they've got some nice beaches there.
Yeah. Well, it's all kinds of beach, really, isn't it? You've got your sand all over the place to play, and then you've got your nice trees to shelter from, and then then you've got your rappers' lady friends as well.
Yeah, so, yeah, you have to excuse my phone there. That's just some new work coming in.
Well, you're very popular, aren't
That's
you?
it, yeah. Well, I haven't appeared once on Rogue Traders, which I'm feeling a bit left out.
Yeah, well, it's free advertising, isn't it? No publicity is bad publicity. That's what they say.
Well, that's it. Do you know Bob Mills?
Yes.
No,
yeah.
not the guy of the television, but the
the other one.
the electrician. Yeah,
that one.
He was on 3 times last month.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I bet he can name his price now, can't he?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, any granny in their right mind takes him on. He walks in. There's a bit of electrical work. The house goes on fire.
Well, they like that because it gives them a chance to meet that chap in the leather. That comes round when they, yeah. That's what they do it for. It's all a big setup.
That's it, yeah.
It's just old women, perverts, a lot of them.
Yeah, well, that's it. Oh, well, one of them was done for housing benefit fraud.
Really?
Yeah. It's foreigners for you. You can't trust them. No, they're a bit odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see Margaret Thatcher's funeral a few months ago?
Well, I did, yeah. I mean, I caught a bit of it on the telly, obviously. I was going to go down and have a look, but I couldn't be arsed in the end.
I cried and I cried and I cried, I mean, it was a bad business,
Yeah.
I caught the cock in the lawnmower.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, that's what happens. You get distracted by an ex-head of state's funeral, and suddenly it's
That's it. Well,
Was it the Flymo or the old that old cylinder one you've got?
No, it was a Flymo. I'll tell you what, mate, it was more bother with a hover.
Oh, yeah. Still for the best, though. If you'd have run it over with your old cylinder job, it would have just wrapped it round.
Well, that's it. Might have made it a bit longer, eh?
Longer, but significantly more lacerated. Yeah. Well, I mean, still, your old dear would appreciate that, wouldn't she?
Well, that's it. I mean, the mother-in-law came out, saw what I'd done, just released me.
Yeah, and then she freed you from the lawnmower.
That's it. Yeah. The missus said it looks better now.
That's good, isn't it?
She says she always liked Jewish men. So.
Right, fair enough.
So,
She likes blokes that slice their cock up as well, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah.
She's whenever I go in the house, look on the website, and there she is, just watching men slicing their cocks off on the internet.
Yeah.
I told her eventually that not what it was. It was a cookery program, and they were just doing some sausages.
Yeah, but anything like that, she sees it and thinks it's avant-garde art.
Yeah, but she loves that. She loves that film where the guy slices his eyeball.
Oh, yeah, that's one of her favourites, isn't it?
Yeah, what was it called again? Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, that's the one.
Big. Absolutely brilliant stuff. I mean, I bought it for Christmas on a DVD Blu-ray combination set.
Oh, right, yeah. So you can play it twice at the same time.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, I prefer things on Blu-ray. She doesn't see the point, you see. So she just watches the DVD bit of it.
No, it's just stupid. Obviously, it's better on Blu-ray because it goes quicker, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've got 3D television, of course.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, I can only watch it for 10 minutes at a time before the blinding headaches. But it's still it's amazing. It's like you're there.
Yeah. What is? I mean, real life gives you blinding headaches after 10 minutes, doesn't it? So it just shows how realistic it is.
Yeah, I mean
that and the retinal bleeding.
Yeah, I mean that's you can cope with that. I mean it's $2,000 well spent. I thought.
I'd have said so. Yeah. I mean, especially since you nicked it.
Well, yeah, and I did manage to get some glasses with some special blood cups on them to catch the blood.
Well, that's good. You can use it in your cooking afterwards.
Well,
thickens the gravy nicely.
Yeah, that's it. And because it's sort of 3D juice, it makes the omelette a bit bigger.
Yeah, helps it rise.
Yeah, that's it.
You want to try putting it in your souffle.
Yeah, it bursts out. It does. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's like I tried putting it on a yo-yo the other day.
On a yo-yo?
Yeah.
All right. What happened?
It sort of flew through the window. Fantastic. Blimey. Straight into the face of the postman who was walking past.
Oh, I bet he thought it looked just like it was coming right at him.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff.
It's brilliant, that is.
He's dead now.
No, well.
You got to see the old...
Oh, dear, really?
Yeah.
What, and then it fell off?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it went all over the place. It did. It was a bit
God.
business,
Oh, I hope that wasn't in your yard. It's a bugger to clear off, that is.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the power washer now.
Oh, right,
The
steam one. Steamy one.
Just cleans decking off nicely, does that?
Yeah.
Have you got yourself some decking yet? I mean,
no, I haven't yet. Yeah. No, should I get some decking?
Definitely.
Do you reckon is that where it's at? Is it these days, decking?
I tell you what, mate. I didn't know what I did before I got decking.
No one knows what you did.
I just had to sit on wet cement. It was bad.
It's awful, isn't it? But it's a lot of keeping up to, though, isn't it? Decking. A lot of
yeah,
keeping
well,
up to.
you know, I've got the power washer. I've got the 63000 model. You know, I'm not bragging, but that's it. Yeah.
I suppose you've got one of your actual properly purpose-built power washers. It's not like that one I rigged up that time out of an iron and a hose.
No.
And the outside of a biro.
Can you just get the sight back?
Well, it's difficult to tell. I mean, you know, they occasionally bump into things, but I think that might just be childish playfulness.
Oh, they're lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Oh, I'll tell you what, mate. I come to think of it,
yeah,
I don't think I've got a wife. Or any kids.
Hang on, neither have I. Oh, look, they've brought us the wrong breakfasts.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Waiter, where's our hummus?
The Brain Jam podcast featured Martin Wolfenden, Lisa Goddard, Andrew Wilson and Tom Stringfellow. For more information go to brainjam.co.uk. I am a robot, and have no todger, but I do have electric titties.